was delivering food today. The other person gave me $500 asking me to keep a secret. At that time, there were still 4 minutes to close and I just happened to have time to deliver the goods. I had a hunch that this would be a scary night. He ordered a large pizza and asked for it to be crispy with more meat on top. The weight of the pizza was too heavy and it hit the bottom of the box. I took it out of the restaurant and I heard a dog barking in the distance. I guess he must have smelled the meat. It took about 45 minutes by car, and that neighborhood is usually not within our service area, but we are the closest pizza shop to him. The most important thing is that this order is expensive, so our boss happily agreed to deliver the goods. It costs $20 per layer of meat on top. The price of this pizza bought by this customer can buy 3 ordinary pizzas. He seems to be a meat lover, but in the 2 years I've been working here, I've seen a lot of strange things like this. At first, I thought it was just a little remote place. I drove up that road and there was a small house there. I felt a little weird. There are no street lights here, so I had to drive slowly with the high beam and there was no lighting around. At first, I thought it wasn't particularly remote because it's not far from the suburbs, only about 10 kilometers. The house is very similar to the residential area, but there are very few streetlights and road signs there, and they are very far from each other. I don't know this area, but the navigation can find here, which means it's not particularly remote. I parked the car in front of this customer's house. This house is no different from other houses on the street. There are 4 houses on both sides of the street, and the street extends to a place without a house. But I can see something like street lights in the distance. In the dark, I looked around and this place was occupied by 8 houses and there was no one else. I took the pizza in my bag and got out of the car. As I was about to walk to that house, I heard something behind me. I turned around and saw a woman rushing over the grass in front of a house across the street. She was wearing white t-shirts and underpants, and there was something stuck on her clothes. She ran away in panic, so I guess it was blood. She didn't seem to see me, but she was running away, avoiding the people in the house. That person was likely to attack her, but she saw my car and I didn't turn off the engine. Before I turned around to call her, she got in my car and left. I stood still. The house across the street was suddenly shut down. No one came out to chase the girl, and no one came out of the other houses to see what was going on. My cell phone was in the car, so I couldn't call the boss to explain what happened, and I couldn't call the police. I had no choice but to continue my work. I turned around and walked on the sidewalk leading to the customer's house. Maybe they could give me an explanation or let me use their cell phone. I knocked on the door and the door opened in a few seconds. I didn't see anyone. It was pitch black in the house. I couldn't see anything but the door, but I could still feel someone inside. It was her who opened the door. I felt like she was staring at me, analyzing me. Because of what happened just now, I had an idea. I said it out loud, introducing myself as a pizza delivery guy. But she must have seen my uniform and pizza box. But no one responded to me. The weight of the pizza made my arms a little sore. There was too much meat on the pizza. They didn't pay online, they paid by delivery. So I told them the price and leaned on the door frame to keep my body out of the house. The darkness outside made me feel very dangerous, and the darkness in the house made me more scared. After a while, there was still no answer. I was more and more afraid of the environment around me. So I said, if you don't want it, I'll leave. But I didn't want to take such a heavy thing home, and I didn't want to lose my job. I started to turn around, but the sound of a voice told me to stay where I was. That voice came from inside the house. It sounded very close. I didn't hear what he said, so I asked, "What did you just say?" "The money is under the stone at your foot. Go get it yourself. Give me the meat." I looked down and saw the stone, the kind of decorative stone with a hollow bottom. People often use it to hide keys. I knelt on the ground and lifted the stone and found a few $100 bills. Well, one is enough, but the amount is too large. I can't find it. I only have a piece of change. I didn't lie to him. I haven't taken any change with me for a long time. Do you have a smaller amount? Take it all. Take it as a compensation for your trouble and as a reward for keeping the secret. Give me the meat. You may think that the words in the dark will sound very scary and will make you shiver, but this voice is not like that. It sounds very hungry, like an old man who hasn't eaten for days. I didn't feel that he was threatening me. I took the money and thanked him. Then I put the pizza in the dark. I thought there would be a pair of trembling hands coming out and taking it away. I held it hard in case this guy was so hungry that his hands were shaking, but no one came forward to get the pizza, but was caught by some kind of invisible force. My hand was gently pulled apart from the box. Then I saw the pizza floating in the dark until it completely disappeared in my vision. I thanked this customer again. I didn't want to stay too long, so I was annoyed. Then I turned around and left the door. But I remembered my own trouble and reluctantly walked back. Do you have a cell phone? Can you lend it to me? A girl across the street drove my car away. I had to spend a long time to get back to town. When I made this request, I didn't stare at this house directly in case the other party thought I was hostile. The people in the house didn't speak for a while, but something in the dark made me feel like the people inside were considering my request. You said the girl was a guest of my neighbor. We don't interfere with other people's business. But if you just want to go home and don't violate other people's privacy, then I can make the car stop. But you have to promise me that you won't help the thief and drive your car away. Can you promise me that? I know something bad must have happened across the street. Customers want to ensure their privacy in order to protect their own privacy. The woman looked very painful and afraid to steal a car instead of asking for help. My conscience doesn't allow me to follow the customer's conditions, but I still agreed. If I can meet her, I'm still going to help her. Very good. The man was very satisfied. He thought I really agreed. I didn't know what was going to happen, but a hand came out of the darkness. 4 fingers with gloves came out of the darkness, and the 5th one was supposed to be a big thumb hanging there helplessly. This part of the glove was empty. It was a black leather jacket. 4 fingers pointed to the street far away. After a while, the hand became a fist. After a while, the fingers loosened. The hand shrank from the air and returned to the darkness. You will find your car at the end of the street, but it will take some time. When you find it, you have to follow our agreement and go home directly. I said thank you, but before I turned around, the hand appeared again. This time he gave me 100 yuan. Thank you for keeping it a secret. I took the money, put it together with another pile of money and put it in my pocket. I thanked him again and left the house. I took a glance at the house across the street. It was the one where the girl escaped. There was nothing different on the surface. I kept walking. I walked past other houses on this remote street. It was normal to see a kind of gloomy atmosphere that made people feel numb and cold. It took me an hour to walk past the street and find my car. I found it parked on the side of the road. The head of the car was leaning against a small ditch. The lights were on. It stopped while driving. I carefully walked to the driver's side. When I looked inside, I was stunned. The scene I saw on the driver's seat was too scary. In the past few years, I have watched countless horror movies at night, but I have never seen such a terrible thing. After a long time, the fear subsided a bit. I couldn't see any damage to the car. The engine was still running. I looked closely at the position next to it and tried to avoid looking at it. Then I found a lot of gasoline in the tank. There was no problem with the car when the lights were on. It just stopped. When I woke up, I knew I couldn't report it to the police or tell my boss. I carefully took it out of the car and put it in the ditch by the road. There was no ID on it, and given its condition, I couldn't describe its appearance. When I got into the car, I remembered the money in my pocket. I took it out, took out 100 yuan and threw the rest on the road. Holding the money would make me feel very uncomfortable. I don't need revenge to keep a secret. Seeing the woman's face, I was already scared enough. The 4 fingers with gloves crushed the woman's head. You can say I'm a coward or even an accomplice. But if I leak it out, my encounter will be the same as that woman. I dare not say the specific location anyway. I won't admit it. I drove away and left her and the money behind. When I returned to the restaurant, I used the navigation problem as an excuse to explain why I came back so late and gave the 100 yuan to the boss. At 3 a.m. I was so hungry that I ordered a takeaway at home. For safety reasons, I filled in the reservation. I hadn't gone home on the way, so I just sent the food to the back door and took a picture. Half an hour later, the rider sent me a message. "Little sister, your takeaway is at your door. Please come and get it as soon as possible." He also sent a picture showing that the takeaway had been placed at my door. In order to avoid colliding with the rider, I waited behind the door for a few minutes before opening the door. The first second I opened the door, I looked down at my phone screen. The rider is now 0 meters away from you. I was shocked. I just put my hand on the door handle and subconsciously shrunk back. After re-updating several times, I found that the position of the rider has not changed. The rider is still 0 meters away from me on the map. My back gradually began to sweat. People who often order takeaway know. Generally speaking, the rider will click to confirm the delivery after delivering the product, then rush to deliver the next order. And when this order is over, the customer will not be able to see the position of the rider. But sometimes the rider with a rough heart will forget this step. For example, now such a small action can expose his position. That is to say, this rider is still outside my door. I hold my breath, tremble, and close my eyes. I only see a quiet corridor. There is only an emergency safety light outside with a slight green light. My nervous heart beats faster. Maybe the sound insulation is not good. The sound control light in our building is very sensitive. Usually, whether it is inside or outside the house, there is a little bit of sound. It will automatically light up. If the rider is really hiding at the door, more or less, there should be some sound. Since the sensor light is not on, there should be no one outside. I look at the dark corridor to comfort myself. I must have thought too much. After a few minutes, there is still no difference outside the door. This is a relatively old community. Most of the residents have moved away, and I am the only resident on this floor. It's early in the morning now. There is no one in the building. The whole building is quiet, until my stomach started to scream. I feel hungry. I look at the screen of my mobile phone again. The rider is now 0 meters away. Have I got up yet? By the way, the rider has no reason to stay at my door all the time. Is it because the location of the food delivery platform is inaccurate? It is possible. When I usually order food, I have a habit of paying attention to the location of the rider. The milk tea I ordered once was sent to me. The location of the rider on the platform is still 3 kilometers away from me. I just found out that the location on the platform has been delayed. Today is probably the same situation. When I think of this place, I take a deep breath and slowly open the door. The building is still quiet. The food delivery platform is about 1 meter away from my door. I look around for a week. After making sure that there are no suspicious people around, I step out of the building. But at the moment when I picked up the bag and raised my hand, I heard a sound of the camera shutter at the end of the corridor. As soon as the flashlight turned on, the sound control light in the corridor also turned on. At that moment, I was scared out of my wits. I immediately picked up the food and ran into the house to close the door. After locking the door, I confirmed it again and again. Until now, the emotion that I was afraid of made me tremble uncontrollably. The fear in my heart spread all over my body. I'm sure I didn't hear it wrong. Just now, there must be someone on the stairs. When I was thinking, my phone vibrated. It was a message from 𝐓𝐫𝐿. "Little sister, are you at home?" Along with the message, there was also a photo. In the photo, I was a little panicked. From the camera angle, the other person was indeed the one who was just in the stairs. Since I didn't reply, 𝐓𝐶 continued to ask, "You said you were not at home, but why did a girl come out to get the food?" I was nervous again. Along with the fear, there was also anger. Am I at home? What does it have to do with him? Why didn't he hurry up and deliver a meal? Why are you pestering me here? But I didn't want to continue to stimulate him. I can only lie. I want to deal with the past casually. I'm not at home, but my roommate is here. He helped me take it in first. I thought this would turn over 𝐓𝐶. I didn't expect him to bite me and not let go. Are you a roommate? Looking at the back, you seem to be in good shape. Can you introduce me? I just need a girlfriend. Don't worry, I will definitely love her. When I saw this message, I felt numb in my head. No wonder he didn't leave. It turned out to be such an ulterior motive. I thought he had been waiting for me in the dark for so long. He even took his cell phone to take a picture of the moment I took the food. I felt a sense of disgust. I know it's useless to refuse. He even thought you were flirting with him, so I blacked him out. But in this way, I can't use the food platform to check his location. I had no choice but to wait quietly for a while. I guess he should have left. I plucked up the courage to hold my breath and slowly approached the door. I can feel my heart beating fast. It's like a heavy hammer hitting my chest. I carefully looked out of the cat's eyes, but in the dark corridor, there was only a flash of green light. I didn't see anyone in the emergency light. Just when I was about to let my breath out, a face appeared in my sight. I was looking for a job in the US. I encountered a robbery during an interview. At that time, I knew that this job was not easy. The manager could only take a baseball bat from under the counter and scare the person away. Because I didn't run away, he said I passed the interview. Anyway, this job is generally not done. Even if you leave in a few weeks, I won't be angry. To be honest, I'm more worried about whether I can live until the day I get my salary. The location of this convenience store is not very safe. If I didn't want to go too far, I might find a better job. The next day of the robbery, the shop owner told me to go there at about 9 o'clock in the morning. Learn how to use a receiver. Tell me where the safety box is. He reminded me that the robbery I encountered the night before was not a coincidence. We have been attacked several times in the past few weeks. The gang is getting bolder and bolder. I don't know why they are staring at us, but that's the way it is. You have to be prepared. Then he took me to see where the weapons were placed. To be honest, when I saw those weapons, I felt that the shop owner was going to start a war with these gangsters. He said I had to take all measures to protect his shop. He took me to see a small staircase to the underground castle. He said if there was an emergency and needed to hide, he could call him and he would open it. I guess most of his stock is here, because this shop is on a slope. I saw the unloading point on the other side of the alley. I don't know why he thought that the freezer was a good hiding place, but I still obeyed his instructions. That day I started working directly. My shift is at 2 o'clock. The work is very easy. I started to feel that this job was not bad until I heard the gunshots outside the shop. This illusion immediately broke. The gang members rode a famous motorcycle into the parking lot and circled the big circle. They aimed at each other with machine guns. They shot crazily while laughing. Then they left by motorcycle. The shop owner was very smart. He installed bulletproof glass. But considering the strength of the gun, I don't know how long he could hold on. After the situation calmed down, I told myself that this was just a coincidence. But the next day, the situation got worse. When my shift was half done, 2 young men came in wearing gangsters' traditional clothes. They raised their machine guns over their heads like torches. I stood behind the counter without moving and tried not to be scared by their actions and threats. They pointed their guns at my face and asked me to put them in the safe downstairs. They said that if I didn't do it, they would blow me up. What they said at that time was probably the bravest thing I've ever done in my life. 2 brothers, I know you want to rob, but it's not time for you to come. We just emptied the things in the basement. The 2 of them looked at each other in surprise. They continued to threaten me. But when they heard the gunshots outside the store, they were shocked. It was another gang shooting nearby. The 2 gangsters were shocked. They ran out the door and jumped in the car and left. Later, I was so scared that I passed out. Finally, when I came back to my senses, I called the shop owner and told him the situation. He said, "Martin, you did a good job. I will raise your power and give you a raise as a reward. Tomorrow I will give you the key to the basement. You can help me get the goods to the basement." I felt very confident about this. The shop owner trusted me. I thought I wouldn't be scared by the gang members again. I felt like I was floating until the next day. The shop owner came over in the morning and gave me the key. He said the truck would come to pick up the goods in a few days. I need to be responsible for the receipt. The shop owner plans to go on vacation. I shouldn't have been in such a hurry to take care of this. I should have asked the situation first, but I took the key like a fool. I started to do my daily work. I went back and forth from house to house. There were not many customers in the shop. It was easy to get lost. I kept thinking about the basement. I thought about the cash hidden by the shop owner. This sounds a little suspicious, but I really wanted to see what was below. After a few hours of psychological struggle, I gave up. I decided to go to the basement to have a look. I locked the door first. I turned the sign to the side where I was resting. I stood on the stairs for a few seconds. I told myself that I couldn't do this. If the shop owner found out that I was peeping, I would lose my rice bowl. But if he was doing something illegal, he might pull me into the water. I walked down the stairs and thought about it. I opened the door. The first reaction was disappointment. There was a refrigerator and a storage box below. There was nothing special. Then I opened a freezer. I was so scared that I almost screamed. There was a corpse inside. I closed the door and ran upstairs. I ran to the counter with my chest. I was almost scared to death. I should have called the police. I should have left there. When I calmed down, I went back to the freezer to collect evidence. I took a picture of everything. My heart was beating fast. I found that there were corpses in the freezer. At least 5 people were killed. When I got closer to see who it was, I found that they were all members of the same gang. The 2 men who threatened me that day were together. So they came to the shop because the shopkeeper killed their members. I suddenly felt that I was being watched. Then I turned around. I saw 2 enemy gangs coming in from the unloading place. They pointed a gun at me and asked me to help unload the goods. I didn't dare to resist. I looked down at them and took the freezer. "Where is this going?" I asked with courage. "Fruit box." There are several other shops that use this kind of meat. I wanted to throw up. They sold this dead meat as lunch. But I suddenly thought that these people may not even know what they are carrying. Suddenly I had an idea. I pretended not to hold a box. The box was scattered. Many organs fell on the floor. The 2 men screamed in surprise. They first pointed at the blood with a gun and pointed at me. "What is this?" the second man asked. I said nothing. I saw the 2 men suddenly stop loading the goods. I checked the other freezer and found those boxes. "Do you know this?" the first man asked. I pretended not to know. They told me to go away. This time I didn't hesitate and ran home. That night I kept thinking about what to do. I called the police. I told the police what I knew. I took the initiative to provide photos. But the US police seemed to be not interested in the killing of gang members. But it didn't matter what I did. The next morning the shop was burned down. I don't know which gang set the fire, but all the evidence was completely extinguished. I called the shop owner to report the fire. I was also fired. He claimed that it was because he couldn't afford my salary, but I know he didn't mean that at all. He knew I found his secret. He was very angry. Even though this job was only done for less than 2 weeks, I'm sure the shop owner and his colleagues are still watching me. I don't know what to do now.